Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really trying to cut through some of the noise in crypto, especially focusing on XRP, but also these, well, pretty surprising shifts happening across the whole market. We've got a few interesting sources lined up for you. There's a guide on crypto content, which is quite insightful, a really interesting video transcript capturing the market mood, and an article on recent regulatory moves.
Yeah, and our goal here really is to pull out the most important bits from all of this. We want to help you understand why some people are calling this a potential perfect storm, particularly for XRP. Think of it as, a way to get up to speed quickly without getting totally buried in information. Let's jump in.
Okay, so first off, there's this real sense of tension in the market, isn't there? Almost like everyone's holding their breath. One source described it as feeling like the next move could change absolutely everything. What's making this moment feel so, well, pivotal, especially for XRP?
It's interesting how different sources seem to be pointing at the same thing, this idea that the pieces are lining up for XRP specifically. It's not just one thing, it's sort of a combination. You've got the market structure looking interesting, whispers of more institutional adoption, and, importantly, political pressure starting to build. One analysis literally said this is exactly the setup we've been waiting for. Feels less like random hope and more like factors converging. Even seeing mentions from overseas, like an Israeli source suggesting XRP might be on the verge of a breakthrough.
Okay, so the big picture feels tense, potentially positive. But drilling down into XRP itself, we're hearing things like the charts are screaming. That sounds pretty dramatic. What are the technicals actually showing us?
Well, screaming might be strong, but the analysis we looked at, especially from that video transcript, definitely sees charts begging for a breakout. That's the phrase used. There's even one analyst, eGrad Crypto, talking about a potential 777% move. And they stressed, this isn't just wishful thinking or opium, as they put it, but literally what this structure suggests.
Okay, 777% is ambitious.
Sure.
What levels are we talking about more concretely? Support, resistance.
Right. So looking at the specifics, the support seems pretty solid around that $310 to $307 area, maybe deeper support down near $295, $300. Crucially, staying above the 50-day moving average, that's around $314 right now, is seen as a really positive bullish sign. Then there's this area of interest for a potential breakout, call it $335 to $342. But the big one, the key breakout number, according to this source, is $366.
$366, and if it breaks that?
If it gets past $366, the analysis suggests a quick move, potentially into the $4 to $6 range. And, they connect this back to XRP's history. It has gone from pennies to dollars very quickly before. The idea is when the momentum really flips bullish on a large scale, XRP tends to move fast. Really fast.
So the charts look primed, but you mentioned something else intriguing from the video source, this idea of legal silence meet the technical breakout territory. What's that about?
Yeah, that was an interesting observation. The analyst noted that Ripple's CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, has been unusually quiet since the main lawsuit stuff wrapped up. They called it super freaking rare for him. But at the same time, you have Stuart Alderauti, the chief legal officer, dropping little legal breadcrumbs. Calculated ones, apparently.
Calculated breadcrumb.
That's the suggestion. Like, not random comments, but carefully chosen bits of info. And this mix, the CEO being quiet while the legal side subtly signals things right when the charts look ready to move historically, that's seen as a recipe for chaos.
The good kind of chaos, hopefully.
Exactly, the good kind, the kind that often precedes a significant market move. It's like this coiled spring feeling.
Okay, that adds another layer. Now let's shift gears a bit to the institutions. There was some ETF drama, particularly around BlackRock. Can you unpack that for us?
Right, the ETF situation. It got a bit confusing. There was a report, I think, from The Block that came out saying BlackRock was only interested in Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, specifically not XRP or Solana. But then the video source we reviewed pushed back hard on that, called it lying, actually, and claimed BlackRock is actively discussing both an XRP and Solana ETF.
So conflicting stories. Is there any other evidence?
Well, the article source does confirm there have been meetings between BlackRock and the SEC. It suggests progress on more ETF approvals generally, even if no official XRP filing has popped up yet. And the reason BlackRock would be interested, according to the video analysis, makes sense. They don't just, pick assets randomly. They look for things with legal clarity, real adoption, and profit potential.
And XRP fits that bill, in their view.
According to that source, yes. It argues XRP checks off every one of those boxes. It highlights the legal clarity post-lawsuit, a locked-in legal green light, plus an actual use case, solving a trillion-dollar decade-old problem in cross-border payments. The video also mentioned an October deadline for filings, possibly adding to the urgency. And interestingly, it threw out the idea that sometimes when a narrative gets attacked like that no-interest story, it's because someone wants in cheaper.
Hmm. That's a cynical take, but maybe realistic in this space. It really underlines how important the regulatory side is. Let's talk more about that shift.
Definitely. The regulatory environment is probably the biggest piece of this puzzle, and it starts with that Ripple lawsuit conclusion. The source focusing on that Ripple's resolution laid out the details. The SEC effectively ended the suit. Ripple agreed to a $125 million fine. That was August 8th, 2025. But the critical part, the distinction the researcher emphasized, was what was deemed a security activity, sales to big institutions.
Yeah.
Yes, sales on open exchanges to regular folks. No.
And that distinction is huge, right?
Yeah, massive. Removing that regulatory cloud, as the source puts it, is fundamental for market trust. And crucially, it opens the way for institutional instruments like ETFs. You need that clarity. Beyond just Ripple, we're seeing broader moves. The SEC put out new guidance for crypto ETFs, stuff about risk management, asset storage. It's seen as potentially paving the way for faster approvals down the line for things like Solana or XRP ETFs.
So regulators are possibly starting to provide some framework.
Slowly, yeah. But then you have the other side of it, the political pushback. The video source mentioned Chairman Tim Scott really going at the throat of the regulators, accusing them of using reputational risk to effectively debank Americans, basically cutting off banking access to industries they don't like, including crypto.
And how does that political fight connect back to XRP and the market?
The argument is that this kind of regulatory overreach or perceived overreach has been the single biggest thing holding back adoption in the U.S. So if that political tide turns, if the pressure mounts on regulators to back off or provide clearer rules, it means less fear for institutions thinking about getting involved. It could mean faster ETF approvals and ultimately more capital potentially flowing into the space.
That really does sound like a confluence of factors.
Yeah.
What about the wider market impact? Are we seeing signs of this shift already?
There are hints. The Ripple's resolution source cited a prediction from State Street, a huge financial institution. They suggested crypto fund assets might actually surpass precious metal funds by year-end. We're talking serious money. Crypto funds already hold around $136 billion in the U.S. And you also have figures like Nate Gerasi from the ETF store reportedly expecting major players, BlackRock, Fidelity, to file for XRP ETFs soon. It points towards crypto becoming, well, more integrated into traditional finance.
Okay, let's try and pull this all together. We've got XRP charts looking primed for a breakout. We have institutional heavyweights like BlackRock potentially making moves. And we have this growing political pushback against regulatory headwinds. The video source wasn't kidding, calling it a perfect storm.
Yeah, it paints a picture where these different forces are hitting at the same time. And the analysis frames it as a chance to front-run a shift that's going to look obvious in hindsight. The idea being, if you're watching this closely right now, you're not just speculating. The source predicts that after it happens, if XRP does make a big move, people will say, well, of course it did. It was obvious. But it argues most people won't see it until it already has happened. It's about seeing the convergence before it becomes mainstream news.
That's a powerful thought, and it leads to a bigger question, maybe for you, the listener, to ponder. With this regulatory clarity starting to emerge, and institutions clearly getting more interested, how does the definition of mainstream finance itself change? What assets, maybe ones that seemed fringe just a couple of years ago, might become standard parts of institutional portfolios very soon?
Exactly. And beyond just which assets get included, what does this mean for the actual plumbing of the financial system globally? Are we looking at fundamental changes to how money moves, how banks operate? It's definitely something to keep an eye on, way beyond just the price charts.